Pitch my pitch up, smack my oh, hey guys, I didn't see you there. Just singing to myself. You want to do a podcast? Oh, sure. Yeah, let's do another one. I'm glad that you came back. This time we're gonna talk to a dear friend of mine named Danny, who I've known for a while now. Danny, I've been on Danny's podcast, Seller Sessions, a couple times. We've done webinars together. We meet each other at conferences and speak together once in a while. And we're just regular old buds as well. Danny McMillan is a seller himself. His story, which we don't dive into here because Danny's really no BS type of dude. He loves to dive right into the techniques, which the technical folks among you are going to really appreciate. But he used to be a DJ for a super long time. He was DJing. He has a long DJ history, which is pretty sweet. And he and I have that in common because for those of you that don't know, I was in a touring band for about 7 years. Played over 1,000 live shows. And so I got rock and roll roots, baby. So Danny and I really bond over that. But on this podcast, we talk about Danny's approach to PPC. Danny's company does active PPC management for companies. And he talks about how to launch a product with only PPC. It's pretty cool, and he's got real data. He runs experiments. He's run over a dozen experiments, I think by this point, of getting products to rank on page one using nothing but PPC. So yes, folks, it is possible. You're going to hear how and the data behind how his experiments went down on this exclusive Seller Jams. Let's jam!
What's up, Danny?
Hey, Dan.
Have you here, man.
Thank you.
So we're gonna Danny McMillan style get right into the nitty gritty and skip all the pleasantries and get right to the value, shall we?
Sounds good.
Kicking, man. So like I was telling you actually before we started this recording, I was in a bus in Hong Kong about a month ago with Dan from Northbound Group and Athena.
Yes.
Who are running China Magic. And we were talking about the strategy of launching products with PPC only. And you came up in conversation, not only because of the collaborations that you guys, are doing, but also because of the fact that, you with the All Tides, I'm going to totally butcher this, but All Tides Rising, I believe it is. It was mentioned to me, style or strategy that you've pioneered are also launching just with PPC only.
Exactly.
So this is something really interesting that I think, I don't really know anybody else talking about this besides you and besides Dan and Northbound Group. But I'd love to dig in and kind of get some of those gold nuggets of knowledge from the man who's done it dozens of times, maybe more.
Sounds good. Shall I give you the concept first, the kind of thing, the way it came about, etc.?
Please, that'd be wonderful.
So what I wanted to do is, 3 or 4 years ago, there's a video on YouTube somewhere, like 30,000 views, where I'd done this test showing the relationship between spending money on PPC search terms and a correlation with a product going from what I call the bottom of the Amazon jungle to ranking somewhere. Yeah. So I kind of developed more and more on top of that. So what I decided to do, I did a product launch in June or July, and I put up a brand new fresh listing, brand new product, never sold that type of product or that brand is a new brand on the account. So everything was brand new. And what I wanted to test was, could I take the market leader keyword, use an exact match and just rank off an exact match, not doing anything else. And also take a collection of other keywords that are very similar, that are still super relevant, and measure those. So on day one, I loaded them into my ranking program.
So this is an experiment that you set up?
That's right, yeah. So
okay. Was it with your own products or with a client?
My own. No, my own products. Like we got the agency, but I wouldn't have. I did experiment on my stuff first before we experiment with the agency, because it doesn't matter if I spend money, you know. And I just went all in. Like to rank this product, done in total about $3,500 on this keyword. Now, what I did is that I wanted to understand two things. I wanted to understand what I could do and what the achievements were to use an exact match keyword and nothing else on day one, knowing that there's a relationship between sales and conversions and ranking, etc. But putting it all together and also measuring other keywords that I have not targeted, because we start out our campaigns, right? So we'll use exact phrase and broad matches. We'll run our PPC campaigns, and then later another date we'll check what we're ranking for, and we'll do reverse async lookups and stuff like that. But we don't put all the necessary picture together. So what I did was, from the very first day, I measured about 7 keywords in total, and I took the main keywords, which was exact match. I started with this product that I used a coupon code. So I dropped it a couple of pounds below the retail price, plus use a coupon code as well. So that would appear on the search pages on the listing. So rather than a percentage, I use, in the US you'll use the dollar, but in the UK I use sterling off on that listing. I had no reviews either. And so I just went hard on the PPC to make sure that I was in the number one position. And in most cases, if you're reviewing on the desktop, then you'll find that obviously with a desktop, you've got the right rail and dependent, but normally 2 or 3 search slots, sponsored ad slots at the top below the headline search ads, right? So just went hard with that first week.
And how did you ensure that you were the top spot? Did you just place a really high bid?
Yeah, so basically I started with a high bid, and then I tapered off, just to see where I was losing rank, adding rank, not rank, but position of the ads. So, you can only do that, but like you're doing that by eye. So you're looking at a device on your iPhone, and then you're looking at your desktop, etc. And you're just playing around with it to get a feel for it. And then obviously you can look at your placement reports later to get an idea of where you're at top of search, etc. So I did that. First week, it looked really ugly, hit 200% ACOS, but didn't give a damn, just spending and spending and spending. So basically, we had one keyword, and all of those sales had to come through that keyword, because it was at the bottom of the Amazon jungle, right? It didn't rank anywhere. And then what I was doing, I was tracking these. So if you use something like Helium 10 Tracker, for instance, you can see you start beyond 300, and then suddenly you might spring in at 156, and then down to 97 and 55, and slowly but surely build that up. So I did that for
7 keywords. You were doing this at once?
No, just for one exact match keyword. One. But I was measuring the relationship of these other 6 keywords, because what I wanted to see was, we all assumed that we rank on a keyword because of sales, but why I called it the rising tides effect was because I've noticed I started to rank for these keywords from nowhere in the top 100, for instance, in the early days, but without any sales on those keywords. And I still question why, but it doesn't matter because it's still a benefit, right? So we did this, and we started with 0 reviews, but you've got to do this with a good product. You've got to drop your price below market rate, and then you can slowly bring it up over time. So,
and you're using coupons? The coupons
voucher codes. Yeah,
okay.
So I set up some advanced voucher codes for them, but I didn't use percentage. I used sterling pound off, yeah?
Got it, yeah.
Okay. So from now, one of the most important metrics, not only your click-through rate that you want to focus on, but you want to also focus on your click-to-sell ratio. So without any reviews at the very beginning, we were converting every 6 clicks. But once we got to a handful of reviews, we converted every 3 to 4 clicks, which is really important because of the amount of cash that you're going to be burning. So
that is a really interesting stat. So the conversion from click to buy essentially doubled, went from 6 to 3.
Yeah.
Between no reviews and reviews. It's interesting because to me, I would have expected it to more than double.
Yeah, well, it depends on the country, the category, because in the day, you know this, it's about the data, right? We can all have opinions, and opinions are like arseholes. But what really matters is what you measure. And quite often what happens is you will measure stuff and assume stuff and get it wrong most of the time. So I throw assumption out the window. I'm interested in what's happening with the data, not for data's sake, because sometimes you have to make decisions by looking at the search pages, your products, and compare them to other products to see where stuff's going wrong or going right, etc. Yeah, they're those kind of aspects that you can't really measure looking at the data. You have to use a little bit of gut reaction there as well. But ultimately, the goal, we achieved it. We went top 5. We spent, by the time we got to top 5, we spent about $3,500, but we started to taper off. So when we're having ACOS 200, 250, something like that, by the end of the time we're getting it into the top 5 organically, we got the ACOS down to about 50%. But we still had to have, and that was still eating up our organic profit margin as well as the PPC profit margin. But eventually what was happening, we started
into the top 5.
Yeah.
Just with PPC. Just
with one keyword, exact match.
And how long did it take to get into the top? How many days?
That was about 5-6 weeks, I think, roughly. I'm trying to remember.
So a month and a half.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And that to get into the top 5, and you did absolutely nothing else.
Nothing.
Just did you have a follow-up sequence, an email follow-up sequence?
Oh yeah, you have all those kind of things. They're all standard plays, aren't they? But what you've got to look at, it's not just about running PPC, because you need, like this product that we got, we're selling it below market value, so we're losing money all the time on this product because, like, say for instance, a lot of the products were half the size of my product in terms of volume, right? But they were double the cost. So the reason I could convert every 6 clicks with no reviews is because the sheer value of money, so it was worth taking the punt. But as soon as you got some reviews on the listing, it converted to every 3 clicks. Then that had the social proof. But it all really comes down to how good your product is, because one false move and you're out the game. Yeah, because you could have been, your first review could have been a 2-star. So you need to make sure that your product is super 100%, and you've got fantastic images for this to work. It's not just you can't just repeat this process on everything. If you've gone to Fiverr and had your product images done on there, or you had some cheap guy doing you 3D imaging and they look crap, and the Photoshop artist who was superimposing your product into images that are meant to be like your lifestyle images look really bad, that stuff just simply not going to convert. So images, people eat with their eyes, people pay with price as well. And so if you show value for money, that's going to help your metrics. And then of course you've got the social proof. But what came out of that is we achieved our results that we wanted to achieve. And then what we realized as well, looking at these other keywords, we started to go top 10, top 15 for these other 6 pretty much competitive keywords that are relevant for the product. So that was where the magic started to come as well. So you think you could spend a lot of money on PPC on lots of different keywords and not be super focused. But what we found is we spent it on one keyword, but ranked for 7.
And these were 7. How can we get an idea of how competitive these keywords were? At least like high, medium, low. What would you say the main?
We're talking the UK, right? So let's just say the main keyword was 20,000, 30,000 searches a month. In America, that's not big, but you can do the same thing in the US, but you have to be careful because it will top out at some point. If you're going to get to that stage where, if you're trying to do PPC to get 100 sales a day, you need a serious amount of impressions, a serious amount of high-end conversion in terms of click-through rate, and then literally buying on every click. So it does top out. Do you see where I'm coming from? You have to work it out. Like if you're in a market where you're selling anywhere between 10 to 35, 40 units a month, this PPC strategy could work for you to rank. Yeah. But once you get beyond that, it's going to be very difficult to shift and sell 100 units a day on PPC alone. That's a tough ask.
Yeah, that kind of gets to what I was telling you about before we started recording on this conversation. we were just chatting that we see patterns in launch.
Yeah.
Being that launching is one of the major things that Judo does. And we see a ton of supplements companies come through to do launches.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you just said is, potentially one reason of that being that it's such a high volume and super high cutthroat competition space that they're given no choice but to be extremely aggressive. And launching, or doing, a discount, high volume discount code launch, like the type of launch that Judolaunch does, is a very aggressive route to take.
Yeah.
So yeah, that there's a certain limiting point of limitation, I'm sure.
Exactly. And the next goal after sucking up all your losses to get ranking is to improve your PPC to organic sales ratio, because at the very beginning it's 100% PPC, then it's 95, then it's 90, then it's 85. Yeah, so you want to get to a stage is where you're increasing the price, plus you're tapering off, not trying to own the number one position. So you want to get to the stage where 20% of your sales are coming through PPC and the rest are organic.
Yeah. Now, is this a metric? Is this a specific metric that you watch for your whole account and for each product?
No, but it just depends on how much you got to play with in terms of the overall margin on the products, realistically. But you want to get to the stage where you want your main keywords that are ranking, and PPC is just a bit of top up. I look at PPC. If I can break even, that's fine. And people are so obsessed with reducing their ACOS. The problem with constantly driving down ACOS is that some keywords or search terms are only going to convert at a certain ACOS. And if you dial down below that, then you can wipe out your sales. I mean, we've had people wanting to join the agency who had like a 40% ACOS and wanted to get to 30, right? That sounds absolutely reasonable, right? But once we run all the tools and done all the calculations, we worked out that we could take them from 40%, maybe from 30 down to 28, but that would wipe out 50% of their sales overnight.
Wow,
so you have
which
to be,
would affect everything else.
which is everything else.
The fact that it's
everything. Yeah. There was too much reliance on PPC to maintain rank, in theory. We don't have any proof of that because we don't own the our9 algorithm, but you can pretty much see when you've got a high ratio of PPC to organics, and you want to get away from that eventually. You want to be able to hone in and find your niche or sub niche within inside of your category and your main search terms. Now, we all want these super long tail cheap keywords, but a lot of those do bring micro conversions. There's quite often they don't give you the macro conversion. So you are going to need ones with either macro conversions, because that's going to make up on the composite whole, or you need to be very strong organically and being able to back off of PPC. I think I see a lot of people get stuck in that little holding pattern where they're constantly spending on PPC and basically feeding Amazon. And at the end of it, they're buying stock, they've got the cash flow and everything, and they're not making any money because they're spending all their PPC budget and they're spending all the margin off the organic sales as well. And they can't seem to escape that pattern.
Yeah.
So that's where you start after playing around with the price and bite the bullet and slowly bring the price up. But when I select products now, what I try and do is, instead of trying to create a premium product at a premium price, I try and create products that I can sell a premium product at the same as price as non-premium products, so people get value for money. Does that make sense?
Do you see I have a couple questions in my queue. Let me start out with the first one. What ratio do you shoot for, like for your own account, for instance, for ratio of number of sales coming from paid, from PPC versus number of sales in organic? It's
a hard one. I would prefer at least 80% of my sales coming from organic sales. That's what I prefer. I can't control that. It could be 22, it could be 25, but that's what I shoot for. When you're at 50-50, it's okay if you're making money, but but at the end of the day, what we've all got to remember is about not what position you are on Amazon or how many sales you've got. Like this product we're talking about today on this specific day, I don't want to date this, but moving on from when we launched it, we're now number one on Amazon for this product, but that's bounced around all over the place. But what really matters is the profit per unit. I think we all get sucked into owning positions 1, 2, or 3 where all of the supposed sales are, which is right. But then you could be giving up a lot of margin over ego. So it's trying to work out, well, actually, can I sit back a bit, but still earn good money per unit? Yeah. Rather than having to worry about keep doing giveaways or keep topping up on PPC and then get to work on the next product.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I mean, so when it comes to, using that style of product selection that you were mentioning, of having a premium product for a middle of the market price.
Yes.
You find it all though that, because I've found some really weird and non-intuitive pricing differences when it comes to conversion versus pricing.
Yeah.
That it's, in my experience, at least in the space that my brand is in, which is health, home health, it's not a linear relationship between price and conversion or price and
true.
Willingness to buy. It's not that for every dollar the price goes down, I get another X, conversion.
This is true.
Yeah. There's weird little,
there's
if I was to actually
involved.
graph it, it'd be a weird graph with lows and highs and, strange parts, which is where split testing comes in, I guess. But
exactly. But it gives you movement in the market there. So my strategy allows me to set the price there. And then if it's not working, I can always up the price and earn more money. The difference is when you launch a premium product at a premium price, you've got nowhere to go, because when you bring that price down and the way the numbers would work, the chances are you're eating all your margin and you sell at break even. But if you can find that product and do a bill of materials and bring all of these elements together and bring those to the factory or your supplier or wherever it is, because they're not putting all their percentages on for each element of the product, the composite hull. Do you see where I'm coming from? And then what happens is...
The thing that I don't understand is, how do you avoid the consumers valuing it less because it's priced lower? Is there some kind of trick for at least... Well, I guess, is it just always on sale, for instance, or is there always a coupon for it so that it's everyone always feels like they're getting a deal, getting the super premium, expensive product for, a regular price?
When you look at people that are putting a premium product into the marketplace, but only got there because their costs have increased, they left them nowhere to go but other than sell it at a higher perceived value and the cost, because you can't change your cost of goods necessarily. So it's not like you can then try and weave your price down in the market, because you end up losing out. So I find that if I can build a product that's premium and sell at the average market price, and then if I do want to experiment with price and then take it up and up, I can. And all what's going to happen is I'll just earn more money. So that's kind of my thought process behind it. But I haven't looked in, like you said, is the perceived value that there are going to be people out there that will pay more because they look at it and go, well, that's more expensive, therefore it's better.
Right. Yeah. That would be the thing that I'm worried about. But if you do, I think what you're doing makes sense because you use the coupons and all of that. But I think as long as you can keep the perceived value high and still be able to charge the same price, that the middle of the market is, that sounds like a solid strategy. Because like you said, you have the room to go lower. You're not trapped up there with that high with the low margin, high price, or like regular margin, high price. So that makes total sense. So with this like all tides rise approach, how many products have you launched, or at least seen launched in this way? Was it just this one? Or
until what I've seen and what I've instructed through consultancy and what we've done through the agency and my products, probably done this successfully on about 10 to 12 products.
Okay,
But,
cool. And are there some that it doesn't work for that you?
No, because we haven't gone for super high, super competitive. That's the reason, we haven't pushed the needle and gone, should we try it on this that does like 60, 70 units a day? We haven't taken that risk.
Okay, gotcha.
Because basically our calculations suggest, if you go too high velocity to gain them top 5 places and they're doing 100 units, 70 units, 80 units a day, I don't think you're going to draw in enough impressions and visibility to get the click-through rate, to get the clicks, to get the conversions. Yeah.
Right.
There's just not enough headroom there to achieve those kind of results. Because what happens is, let's say you tried to do this, but you need to get 70 sales a day through PPC, not just give an example, but you can only reach, say, 10 or 15 sales or 20 sales a day. You're constantly chasing from behind, aren't you? So you're spending a lot of money on PPC to get the visibility, to guarantee you the number 1 position, for instance, to try and get all of those sales. But every day you've got a shortfall of 50 sales. So you never quite catch up, but you are spending a lot more money on PPC.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas
So
this method, we gives you a chance. If you've got to hit 20 units a day and you sell 20 units from PPC, you're going to get there a lot quicker, aren't you?
Right.
Especially if it's on a single keyword. It's a bit like when you guys are, you're ranking a product, you'll work on maybe 1 or 2, won't you? You might use a rotating URL, give Amazon a slightly different look, but essentially you're trying to rank one main keyword. You're putting all your weight behind that. And it's the same with the PPC. Now, one thing that I found very interesting that I've had to then change. Now, so you've got the all-tides rising effect, which is great, because what you can do in hindsight is, now that you've got the other keywords that ranked as well, but didn't go top 10, but they ranked without spending money on those keywords, they just got pulled up together. You can then use that same method on exact match for those keywords as well. And you've got less room to go now, because you already ranked from nowhere to somewhere. So you can, once you've tapered off the main keyword, you can do it with the other keywords as well, if you wish to do so, or you can do them all at the same time, depending on your budget. Because one thing I did notice after a while, I'd done some reverse ASIN lookups, and I was using the various different tools just to see the amount of sales being done each month on page 1. And I noticed that I was top 5, but there were people behind me doing a lot more sales than me. And I think, right, well, I need to look into this. So I took the top 20. We used the reverse ASIN lookup. And then what we done is we pulled the data down for every single one of these listings. Then we made sure that they were all relevant keywords. So we siphoned off below anything below 200 searches a month. And we wanted to make sure that we counted all the keywords that these products were ranking for in the top 10 or top 15. And then we run the data into a spreadsheet, and we timed it from how many keywords they are ranking for totally, how many keywords are in the top 10 or 15 above a certain impression share. And then we were looking at that, and then we looked at what keywords they were ranking from and worked out the percentage in relationship. And then what we're finding is, like, when you're looking at these pie charts, you see that main keyword, and then say 75% were coming from other keywords. So they all have a relationship with that market leader keyword, but then they had a spread percentage on all of the other keywords or search terms that they were ranking for.
Even though you were only PPCing for this one.
Yeah. So what I noticed, because I limited my bandwidth, there wasn't a huge amount of width in terms of other search terms. Once I noticed that, that's when we slightly changed, going, okay, I can see what's going on here. So we took all of those search terms and started working with those there to give Amazon a different look. So then we had a broader stretch of search terms in terms of working on, increasing our sales through other search terms outside of the main search term that we targeted.
And
so
again, you're using exact match always.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to do that. You can do exact phrase and broad. Now, if you use the exact phrase and broad, people do that, and they may get slightly different results because they may organically rank when you do a reverse Asing lookup for more keywords. But you've got to understand is that the data that I've taken here is only one area with the top 20. So it's not like I've done this on 1,000 Asins and can give you, certain amount of data. But we looked at it and we felt we learned a lot from that, and it kind of helped explain to us why we could be pretty much ranking higher than them, but selling less than them. It's just that they had a broader stretch in terms of the amount of search terms in the top 10 and 15 that they were ranking on made the difference.
It blows my mind how scientific you guys are on this.
I'm not even scientific. Like Ellis, he's the algorithm expert. Like he didn't get involved with this process, but with
this is a guy on your team, Ellis?
Ellis is my partner in Databrill. So we manage 7 and 8 figure sellers, PPC. But he's on a next level. Some of the shit that he does is crazy. Like some of the reporting that we do at a tremendous scale, because we're working with millions of search terms, millions of data points. And he's a super smart guy and he blows me away. What I'm just telling you there might sound scientific, but isn't. That stuff was done in spreadsheets with my VA. What we do on the agency is much larger because it's very difficult. We kind of put ourselves with the agency in the blue ocean area because a lot of consultants don't want to manage huge accounts with thousands of SKUs. It's too much of a headache, too much labor. But we're able to liability. So we're able to harness that, and that's what the agency is known for. So most of our sellers are obviously 7, 8 figure sellers.
The name of the agency is so great because it just communicates the fact that you guys are focused on data, which you obviously are, being that you're doing this deep analysis, which I love. I totally agree with that, focusing on the data, because there's so much emotion involved in this, like in these communities. Like if you log on to any of the Facebook groups, the Amazon seller Facebook groups, it's like high school or middle school or something. There's like rumors going around and like he said, she said, and just emotions running wild, and fear and panic and greed rampant. And I think folks like yourself who are very, I mean, Danny, you're definitely, I was talking to Dan and Athena about this. You're like the biggest, no bullshit guy that I know. You just kind of call people out, and you're just very, very real. And I
don't go directly calling people out, but I call bullshit on bullshit. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. No, you just say it like it is. I think that you don't even think of it as calling people out. You're just real. And I think, that's, I definitely respect that, because I think I've told you this before, but I feel like that's something we need more of.
Yeah.
As this whole space matures.
Exactly.
Like we were talking before we started recording this, we've been looking more, and I personally have been looking more at this space, like from a macro perspective, from like the bird perspective rather than the frog perspective, so to speak, like seeing where the entire global e-commerce market is going, and with the global, third-party Amazon merchant market is going, and, seeing all of these PE firms come in and start to consolidate spaces, buying up brands, which is, good for sellers, some sellers, bad for other sellers, because consolidation also means, maturation. But I think the more we mature like that, the more folks like yourself and hopefully listeners that are on board with that line of thinking, that are data focused and not, emotion focused, just Wild West, gun at the hip style business, are going to start doing.
I spent years on the emotional focus end of things, because I was originally from the music business and I was in the studio all day. I was a recording artist. So there was a lot, even though you're using technology, there's a lot of love putting into it, and you're kind of very close to your own projects and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so, it's just a different mindset. As I've got older, I've allowed myself to distance myself and realize through failure in the past as well, is that you can't hold on to things. And the best way of getting through stuff is to know when to let go and be honest with yourself. and be honest with other people. So I'm not, with my podcast, it's in and out. We do the business, and people can go off and run their own businesses. I think people like that. And you're the same. Like, we'll have a conversation, we can have chit chat, but we get right into stuff, don't we? And I don't like to say the word value, but the idea is that you put it all in, and then you're done, and then you move on, and everyone is happy. Everyone gets what they require from it. Do you see what I mean? So I think that's important like we said, in the world that we work in. Like you're like me. You've got some fly by night type of people. Try and pretend that Amazon is this 4-hour work week, and it may have been on the gold rush a few years ago, but they're real businesses that we all run. And they have to be treated accordingly.
Yeah, and that's why folks like Kirsty, I believe it's Kirsty from Northbound Group. Again, shout out to those guys. Coming from like the corporate world, she was maybe not corporate, but I know she ran some like really legitimate business in the retail space, either the logistics for them or sourcing or something like that, where she had to have really clear and definite processes in place in order for that business to run. Coming into this, when I had my first conversation with her, she was like, oh yeah, I was blown away by how, this is just really the Wild West. Like, there are no processes, no procedures. People just go off gut instinct. And those are just signs of an early market that hasn't consolidated. That's, just emerging, and it will. And so the folks who do have the ability to be able to create and follow these processes and to find truth and be data focused, those are the ones that are going to make it through the phases as this whole space matures. And hence why voices like yours, I think, are really important.
Thank you.
And so excited to do more collaborations with you, Danny. We're about at the end here. Like you said, short and sweet, value dense. Thanks for coming on, sharing this rising tides effect. I didn't take any notes. I kept picking up my pen and being like, no, someone else will do that. But we will have notes drawn up so that there's kind of a little shortcut study session Cliff Notes sheet in relation to this episode, so that people can just go back and reference it when they want to get the highlights. And hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Danny. Have a good one.
You too.
Ooh, dang, Danny. You get straight to the point, don't you? Danny McMillan is no bullshit. Well, I hope you guys got some serious value out of that. Danny just jumps straight into the deep end, like that crazy kid in 4th grade when you play at the community pool who tries to get you into the deep end before you know how to swim. Well, that's Danny. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next episode. Love y'all. Peace.